Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Moore, and I'm the Admissions Manager for the Masters in Finance programme. I hope you're all well today. And I'd like to say that I've been working at the school now for nearly 2 years, and I'm responsible for making admissions decisions on the programme and reading the applications. So let's dive into what we're going to be doing today. I'll be going through a short presentation, about half an hour, just about the Masters in Finance and about London Business School and more generally. And then after about 1:30, we'll have a Q&A session where I'll be taking some of your questions and hopefully giving you some good answers. So let's get started. First of all, I'd like to talk about London Business School itself. London Business School is 50 years old and celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, which is quite significant, particularly for a European business school. American business school has been around for a lot longer typically. And within that 50 years, we've managed to compete with these top schools, and London Business School is regularly ranked in the elite of business schools worldwide, not just for its MBA program, but for all of its programs. So London Business School generally has a fine history and pedigree. But not only this, the Masters in Finance has been around for 20 years, and it's another significant anniversary for us. And these 20 years have allowed us to not only improve the program over time, but to adapt it and change it to the needs of the market. And it's also allowed us to build a significant alumni presence, as well as increase its offerings. So the Masters in Finance is now ranked number one. We've been ranked number one by the Financial Times since we entered the rankings in 2011, and we hope that continues for a long time. So London Business School itself, as you know, obviously it's based in London, and it's an excellent place to live and to study. I've lived in London for most of my life, so I know what an amazing and interesting city it is to live in. Fantastic place to study any kind of qualification, but in particular a qualification about finance. As you know, London is, if not the foremost global financial hub, an excellent place to study with the city on your doorstep to study finance. So the perfect location really for a finance degree. And not only that, but it's also excellent for a business generally. It's got a fantastic, the amount of entrepreneurship going on in the city at the moment, hundreds of startups happening each month, and most of the world's top companies will have a presence in London, a significant presence in London. The school has over 40,000 alumni now from all of its programs, based in 150 different countries around the world. So we like to say that once you've come and studied at London Business School, you'll have contacts and sofas to sleep on around the world, having met your current class, which is also representative of this kind of diversity. So 40,000 alumni, and 4,000 of those will be Masters in Finance alumni. But as a member of that network, you'll have access to all 40,000, not just the Masters in Finance alumni. And that's the kind of crucial thing about a business school as opposed to, say, a larger university with a business school attached to it, is that the alumni network is much more close-knit, and it's very much an activist network with alumni coming back and helping the school for years and years afterwards. Our alumni do all of our interviews for us for the Masters in Finance, and they're very involved with the school and all too happy to help current students. And our faculty also very diverse, 154 faculty from 30 countries. So what is the Masters in Finance and who is it for? The Masters in Finance is an MBA level finance qualification dedicated to finance professionals with experience. And you'll be considering doing the Masters in Finance for several reasons, but I can give you some of the key features. So most of you listening to this will be interested in some kind of career transition or some kind of career advancement. That's virtually the reason most people go to business school. And you might be at a crossroads in your career generally, or trying to break through a glass ceiling that you feel that extra additional knowledge and experience can help you with. But it's not just about getting a new job after you graduate from London Business School or while you're studying London Business School. It's also about preparing you and giving you the skills and the networks and the experience to help you throughout your career, which hopefully will be a long career in finance, 5, 10, 25 years in the future. It's also about gaining the brand recognition of London Business School. As I said in the first slide, that London Business School is regularly ranked as one of the top business schools around the world, and the Master in Finance is known as the #1 post-experience finance degree. So it's about gaining that, adding it to your CV. It's also about applied learning with an exceptional peer group. You might be considering online or self-study, or you might be considering something like the CFA program. And these kind of programs, they can help you acquire the knowledge about finance, and they're exceptional at doing what they do. But the Master in Finance program is designed to give you that unique finance knowledge and give you a wide range of options of knowledge to study from. But it's also allowing you to deploy that knowledge in what is a very talented peer group and an amazing applied learning environment. You'll be surrounded by a very talented peer group, all experienced finance professionals, and your learning will be enhanced by the experience of others. But that's not to say that the CFA is necessarily a case of either or. You do the Master in Finance or you do the CFA. In fact, the two are often complementary to each other. Master in Finance students, many of them will have the CFA before they do the program, and many will do the CFA once they leave. We actually have a partnership with the CFA program whereby they offer a number of our students some scholarships to take the CFA exams at a reduced rate every year. So if you are particularly studious and you want to study both at the same time, then you can do that through us. So it's not only about gaining in-depth finance knowledge, it's also about gaining that, the professional skills. These are some of the most difficult to teach and learn professional skills, things like creative problem solving, preparing you for interviews, headhunting, networking. These areas, as I said, very difficult to teach and learn. That's why a dedicated part of the curriculum is there to represent that, and that a lot of that's taught by the Careers Centre. Much of that will come through the different clubs on campus as well. So, a huge amount dedicated to developing you professionally, not just your finance knowledge, but generally. And this will help you, whether or not you are looking to gain employment straight away, or inevitably when you are looking for new opportunities later on in your career. And it's also about a customized journey. So as I said, there's a lot of options on the Master in Finance, and we realize that you'll all be looking to study it for different reasons. And that's why you can tailor it somewhat to fit your employment needs or your knowledge needs. So there's a portfolio of over 30 electives to choose from. There's options of internships, there's options of doing exchanges. So I'll go into a bit more detail about the program later on, but there's a huge variety of areas you can choose to focus in. So who's the Master in Finance for? As I said previously, the Master in Finance is for finance professionals with a minimum of 2 years relevant finance experience. The average on the Master in Finance is about 5 years. If you are a recent graduate and you're looking to gain entry into the finance industry, then we have the Master in Financial Analysis program here at the school. So the Master in Finance itself would not necessarily be for you without prior experience trying to enter the industry of finance. So I'll give you a few examples of some of our recent students. Lot here was working for Barclays Africa Group, And after completing the Master's in Finance, he was able to switch to a role as financial officer for the World Bank. Anne was an analyst at Citigroup, and she was actually sponsored. We have many students on our programs that are sponsored by their employers that send their employees to us, and they train and return, usually to promoted positions. So Anne was able to return as an associate. And Yelena was working in natural resources in her native Kazakhstan. And while studying the Master's in Finance, she was able to complete an internship with Goldman Sachs. And we're now pleased to say that that internship has been made into a full-time permanent position. So here's some examples of our recent part-time students. Up here we have Erkan's working for commercial finance for Vodafone, Sarah for GlaxoSmithKline, and Sean who's working at Lloyd's. So that's just a few examples of some of the profiles that we have in the class, but the range of backgrounds is particularly diverse within finance. We like to make sure that all the areas and job functions are covered within our classes. So now I want to talk a bit about what it is and how we do it on the Master's in Finance. We developed a rigorous global and applied curriculum with, as I said, a large degree of flexibility. Your two greatest learning assets while going through this journey will be both the faculty and the peer group, as I previously mentioned. So a little bit about the faculty then. Our finance faculty at the school is actually our largest faculty group here, and the school has an excellent reputation for finance. It's often known as a kind of, it's not necessarily the case, but a specialist finance school. But it is one of our strongest areas. The large faculty group is a testament to our strength in that area and our presence within both the City of London and globally. Our faculty, they come from all over the world, and they teach core courses on the program. They teach elective courses, and they're not just involved in research and teaching like you might expect from academics. They're also involved in their own consultancy as well. So this means that they're actually, kind of on the front line of the industry on a day-to-day basis. So it really adds to the kind of the applied nature of the learning in the program. The faculty on the Master's in Finance, they run their own speaker series for the Master's in Finance students. So you will actually gain directly from their cutting-edge knowledge, and part of the requirement of being faculty at London Business School is that you have to be a first-class researcher. So you'll hear about this research before it's out to other academics or within the public domain. So you'll be always at the forefront of current thought within finance. And we have dedicated research centres at the school. We have the Collar Institute of Private Equity, the Deloitte Institute of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and the AQR Centre of Asset Management. So we have dedicated research centres which will obviously benefit you in terms of their research being passed on to you within the studying and the materials at the school. So now, as I mentioned up top, the Master's in Finance is a post-experience program, and it's a big part of the learning experience is gaining that knowledge from your peers and the viewpoints of a very diverse class. And back in August, we proudly welcomed our class of full-time 2016 and part-time 2017. And within that class on day one, there was over 1,100 years of experience across a huge variety of different areas. And that's from over 52 different nationalities. And it's that experience together with the skills and the knowledge and the networks that you acquire during the program that employers really value. It's important to note that about a third of your work on the program will be group work, and you'll be in study groups of about 5 or 6. Within your study group, nobody should have the same background as you. They might have a similar background, but it's very unlikely that you'll be sitting in a study group with someone who's done the exact same job as you, from the exact same nationality as you. That diversity really adds to the kind of collaborative nature of the program and the assignments. So you'll have to be comfortable working in a group a lot of the time, but you'll really see the benefit of gaining from that experience. And case studies really feature heavily on the program. So it's not kind of your typical undergraduate program where you just kind of listen to a lecturer discuss a topic for an hour. It's much more of a two-way interaction. So there'll be cold calling in classes. You'll be asked to give your opinion on the case studies that are being represented in class. So you'll be required to bring your own experiences and your own opinions into the classroom discussion on a regular basis. So now I'll just talk briefly about the actual program content on the Master in Finance. The Master in Finance full-time program is 10 months or 16 months. The 16-month option is entirely included in the fees. It doesn't cost any additional fees. So you can just choose to extend by 16 months at no additional charge, which represents great value in my opinion. And the part-time program takes place over 22 months, so typically 2 academic years. Both programs will study the same curriculum. There's no difference between the two in terms of what's studied or the faculty or anything like that. The difference is purely format. And when you graduate, you don't graduate with a part-time Master in Finance or a full-time Master in Finance. It's just the Master in Finance, all one graduating class. The core courses are studied by all students, in fact. We have 5 core courses representing the kind of the fundamentals of finance to give you the foundations to go on and study your elective options. And you can choose between 7 and 10 electives. And for the full-time program, this will take place after January, after you'd had your core courses within the first term. And for the part-time students, you can take up to 2 electives in your first year, and the rest of your electives can be taken in your second year. For the part-time program, a variety of options are available for studying electives. So with the first year on the part-time program, you do just core every other weekend, Friday evenings and Saturday daytime. But in the second year, you'll be able to choose from formats that you could do lessons during the weekends as normal, but also in block weeks or in evening formats as well. So most electives you'll find will be available in both block week formats and part-time friendly formats. All the electives will be available in part-time friendly formats, obviously. And once you've kind of decided what direction you'd like to take your Master in Finance, you can choose to concentrate it in one of 3 areas: risk, corporate, or investments. About 60% of the class choose to concentrate their studies in this way. About 40% of the class choose to keep it completely general and just kind of pick and choose the electives that they want to study. So if you want to concentrate in one particular area, you just need to choose 4 electives in one of those portfolios. So that still gives you a great deal of freedom and flexibility of what you can choose, and you can explore areas that you perhaps might not have explored or had exposure to before. If you do either the part-time program or the full-time program 16 months, you can do the option of an international exchange. Most of our international exchange partners are in the kind of Asia Pacific region. They include Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore. So you're able to attend a university in these areas for your final term on the full-time program or your 4th term on the part-time program. If you do the optional 4th term, then you can also do an internship over the summer. Many students will do an internship, as they can be a great way to transition into an area that you're perhaps looking to move into full-time. Often internships are considered to be kind of extended job interviews in many cases. So they can be absolutely crucial of gaining exposure to areas that you've not had access to before. We have practitioner modules as well on the program. Practitioner modules are essentially, they involve practitioners from the industry coming in to teach small classes, small groups, about kind of niche subjects within things like advanced financial models or public finance, and they're based loosely around the concentration. So if you take one of the concentrations, you will be required to complete practitioner modules as well. And we also have Finance at Work events. Finance at Work events are essentially mini conferences, again, based around these concentrations. And they bring together friends of the school, alumni for kind of keynote speakers, panel discussions about current topics within those areas. And we also now offer a global business experience option for both full-time and part-time students. And again, this would take place in the 4th term. And it's essentially usually a feature of the MBA program. And it's a week-long immersive experience where you'll have the opportunity to go to Boston, New York, and partake in institutional visits, company visits, meet with kind of senior individuals at asset management firms in Boston, New York. So a great experience, now available on the Master in Finance. And if you don't want to do a long-term exchange, you can also do a single week exchange, do a block elective, either with UCLA or Columbia Business School in the United States, just for a week. So that's another option there if you're looking to gain kind of more international experience. So now I'm going to talk about kind of life beyond the classroom, and we hope that your time at London Business School will be fulfilling not just within the classroom but also outside the classroom. We hope you gain as much as you do outside the classroom from the school community. And this will mainly be through the student clubs on campus. These student clubs are very active, very organised. There's over 70 of them. And they largely boil down into 3 different areas. You have the professional clubs, like the consulting club, the finance club, private equity. These clubs are predominantly concerned with helping their members get into roles within those industries, or their members will already be working within those industries, and they're about expanding your network within those areas. They also offer kind of coaching. They'll run their own workshops. The finance club, for example, runs workshops on building financial models. So they're absolutely crucial for virtually every student, depending on, even if you don't currently work in energy and you're looking to maybe get into energy, joining the energy club is going to be pretty crucial. So fantastic professional clubs. They also boil down into another area, cultural clubs. As you can see in the photograph here, the Brazil Club running their annual trek to Brazil. And these cultural clubs are networks for predominantly nationals of certain countries, but they run their own activities as well, like organising international visits for students who are not from their country. So they'll bring their classmates back to Brazil for a kind of 2-week trip and take part in kind of educational and cultural activities out there. So, fantastic opportunities to get involved in cultural clubs as well. And finally, we have sports clubs. Like any university, we have competitive sports teams with casual sports teams, and every year the London Business School teams go to compete in the MBAT, which is usually held over in Paris, for kind of global dominance of business schools at sport. So if you want to get involved in that, seriously or casually, whatever sport you're interested in, I'm sure there'll be a club that fits the bill. So we also organise, partially with the clubs, large-scale events. You can see the Private Equity and Venture Capital conference in the slide. I went to this event back in March. It's a fantastic event, organised by the students, and brought together high-profile individuals from the industry and alumni, and there's a lot of kind of panel discussions about topics within private equity and venture capital. Some excellent keynote speakers, but it's not just an event for the students. There was about half the attendees were from industry, so these are huge networking events as well. And we also have high-profile guest speakers come to the campus. You can see Joseph Ackerman, the ex-CEO of Deutsche Bank, in the slide. but also, we had Prince Charles here not so long ago. Politicians regularly visit the campus. So from a wide range of industries, not just finance, there'll be interesting guest speakers to check out. And next, I'd like to talk about the Career Centre and the role they play. They play a crucial role for pretty much all students at the school. And they'll help you in 3 ways. They'll help you, first of all, define your career goals. We have some expectation that you'll already know what your career goals are when you apply to the programme. As part of the actual essay questions is sort of talking about that. But they'll help you boil it down into a kind of a plan A, a plan B, or a plan C, or if your goals change, they'll help you and guide you towards that new goal. They help you with professional development, as I mentioned, help you with one-to-one tuition, in terms of interview coaching, so one-to-one coaching as well as group workshops. And they also help you have access to recruiters. They organise these famous career fairs we have on campus where hundreds of employers will come to talk to our students, and they'll also organise the job boards where positions that are not advertised anywhere else, they're only advertised to business schools, will be advertised. So, talk a little bit about the admissions process and who we're looking for. I would say generally the kind of number one thing we look for from our students is that they're active contributors to both the class and the school community. We want students to, be able to add to the classroom discussion and to work on the group projects together. But we're also looking for students who are going to take an active role in the clubs, in organising events, volunteering. I mean, that really is what the character of London Business School is all about. So you need good team skills, you need to be a good collaborator. We look for students with global exposure, students that maybe have lived and worked in another country, but that's not a requirement necessarily. It's good if you have done that, but generally we're looking for students who have a global outlook on life and that they're accepting of the diversity that London Business School has, and they're excited to learn in such a globally diverse environment. We're looking for students who are committed and motivated. The courses are particularly rigorous. We like to see in applications a level of commitment in terms of research that you've done that tells us, how interested you are in London Business School. One kind of big red flag of an admissions manager reading applications is when I read applications that seem generic, and they could be for any business school. We want to know why it is London Business School in particular that you want to study at. Academic ability, obviously a very high standard of that at London Business School. One of the ways in which we assess that is the GMAT exam, but we'll also look at your transcripts as well when you come to apply. And also self-awareness. Self-awareness in the sense that, part of the process of coming to a business school is the kind of time for self-reflection, kind of assessing what your strengths and weaknesses are, and how are you going to improve yourself in order to get where you want to go. And we'll assess this through the application process, but we do need students who are going to be self-aware and kind of know themselves very well. So briefly go over the actual components of the application. We have the online application itself, which is very straightforward, just a number of questions you need to answer, mainly about your personal details, your work experience. Your CV should be 1 page, perhaps 2-page CV, and to keep it brief. So one thing I would say about that is the CV is the first thing that I see when I read an application. So it's certainly an area to think about, and think about what kind of impact it's going to make. Is it concise? Is it listing your achievements? Your actual functions and your kind of day-to-day activities will be covered in the online application. So make your CV more achievement-based and concise and inviting to read. Your academic transcripts, obviously, these should be translated into English. Your GMAT or GRE scores should be submitted. Proof of English fluencies, that could be through the TOEFL or the IELTS. Your references. So references can be a tricky area for some some applicants. Many believe that the reference is a letter of recommendation from a senior individual at your employer. This is not the case. The references are a series of questions that the referee needs to answer personally. So what you'll do is enter their details online, and then we'll send them a set of questions they need to answer via email. Once they've done that, it comes back to us and we'll assess it. So what I would say is don't get too hung up on the relative seniority of the individual. Make sure that the individual in question is going to be able to answer detailed questions about your strengths and abilities. The fact that you could get someone, a referee from the CEO of your company that you've only met once, great, but if they're not going to be able to answer the questions, it won't look very good. So just making sure it's someone that's worked closely with you. The seniority of the individual is not necessarily the biggest thing here. You can use academic referees, but one thing I should say about that is if you choose to use an academic reference, it should be not just someone that's taught you at undergraduate level. It should be a professor that has perhaps mentored you in your career and has kind of kept track of you since you've graduated. So professional references are preferred generally. And your application essays, so move on to these. You can see in the slide here what the essay questions that we ask in the application. And broadly, they look at kind of, what's your passion? What do you want to achieve by coming to London Business School? What are your career goals? What steps have you taken to reach that goal already? And how do you intend to leverage the Masters in Finance to get where you want to go? And finally, it's more about, the final question is more about what kind of value can you add to London Business School generally, and not just in the classroom, but in the school community, through things like the clubs or the other extracurricular activities that we have. So these questions are your opportunity to tell your story, to demonstrate the amount of research that you've done on London Business School and the Masters in Finance. So don't try and do that in other areas of your application, like your CV. Make sure that comes across in your essays. So what do you do after this presentation? The first thing I should tell you to do is send your CV to our recruitment team. We have dedicated recruitment coordinators for all of our programs at the school, and they can give you some feedback on your CV before you even come to apply, and that can be very useful when you actually come to apply. So open a dialogue with the school, send us your CV, and if you have any questions, the recruitment coordinator's there to help you, about the admissions process and the application, but also about the program generally. If you can, contact students and alumni. We have student ambassadors for the Masters in Finance who are more than happy to speak to applicants. And it's a very useful area to target if you're still in the kind of research phase of your application, is to talk to students and get their opinion. Hearing about the student experience is not really possible through a presentation like this with someone like myself who works in admissions who's not actually done the program, but it's very, very useful to speak to people who have. If you get in contact with us, perhaps we might be able to arrange a campus or class visit, and you should start preparing for the GMAT GRE exam, as it's a particularly tough undertaking and requires a significant amount of preparation in order to get the score that you're capable of. One thing I should say about the GMAT GRE is that we do each year offer a small number of GMAT waivers. These are to those who have exceptional academic ability, demonstrated in excellent grades at undergraduate level from top schools. So it's fairly rare for GMAT waivers to be given out, but if they are, it's usually based on exceptional academic records up until this point. So I would say apply early. We're now into the second round of applications. The earlier you apply, the better. Generally, gives you more time to organise yourself logistically for arrival at London Business School and at the beginning of the programme. And you can see we have 5 rounds in total. We'll still be taking applications up until the 5th full-time round, the 6th part-time round. So that's it from the presentation. I've gone over time a little bit here, but I'd like to take some questions of yours to answer. So the question here is, am I still eligible for the Master in Finance with more than 5 years experience? Now, the average is 5 years in the programme, but the range for the full-time Master in Finance is from 2 years all the way up until around kind of 7 or 8 years. Generally, you know, with the full-time programme, it's less common for students to have more than experience than that. But that's the kind of typical range for the full-time program. For the part-time program, it ranges from kind of 2 to all the way up to 16, 17 years. This is because it's kind of a different goals for part-time students than full-time students. Whereas full-time students will usually be kind of looking to make an immediate impact in their career. The part-time class generally will be looking at kind of making a lengthier impact in their career. Obviously, it's a 2-year program, so kind of incrementally introducing the benefits of the Master in Finance to their profile. And the part-time students, they'll be in the class of the part-time program, there'll be students looking to kind of fill gaps in their knowledge rather than advance. Obviously, there are those in the part-time program who are looking to get new jobs, and many students do this whilst studying the program as well. So yes, you would be eligible, but obviously it depends which program you're applying for and how much experience you have. The one thing I should say that you should do is send your CV to us at mif@london.edu for some detailed feedback on your profile and eligibility. Okay, so next question. So could you expand on the effectiveness of the Master in Finance versus the MBA in helping career changes? So I should say about this, the Master in Finance, again, it's if you're already within finance, you're looking to stay within finance, the Master in Finance is perhaps your best option. If you're not working in finance and you're looking to transition into finance, the MBA can often be a better pathway to do that. You don't need to have exclusively finance experience to do the MBA program, and you are able to take some finance electives during that. So you can tailor your MBA to be more finance focused and try and make the transition that way. But if you're already working within finance, it's and that's exactly what you want to focus on. If you're not looking to kind of get a general kind of broad management toolkit like the MBA offers, the Master in Finance is much more focused and probably more suitable to your needs. Okay. So question here, can I apply if I've booked a GMAT test but not yet taken the GMAT test? And the answer to that is yes, it is. I would encourage you to do this. If you've not got a GMAT score yet, you can apply. If you are successful in your application and you get to the stage where we're making you an offer, we can make that offer conditional on a certain GMAT score, and you'll be given a certain amount of time in which to submit that score. So we would encourage you to do this. But obviously, if you can have the GMAT score already, that's great. But I would advise you to start preparing for the GMAT exam as soon as possible. Okay, so can I work while I study the full-time program? The answer is yes, you can, up to 20 hours a week. Many students will do internships not just during the summer break, but many students will do internships during the cycle as well, that will just sort of come up at opportune times, usually through the alumni network or connections that they make while doing the program. So you can do, many students will sometimes do a summer internship and kind of a part-time internship during their studies. Obviously, your studying is going to be your priority, and the Master in Finance is a particularly intense program, particularly if you're only doing the 10-month option. You have a lot to get in during that time. And chances are that you'll be trying to manage your time effectively, and so really it's up to whether or not you feel that you can handle working in what's probably an intense environment, as well as studying what's an intense and rigorous program. So there's a question here, can I apply it immediately after undergraduate degree? The answer is no. Generally, the minimum experience is 2 years. There may be some circumstances whereby you've got experience prior to doing an undergraduate degree, or perhaps you were working full-time whilst doing a part-time undergraduate degree. I know many business degrees in areas like Germany and Denmark work in this way. So perhaps we consider those kind of profiles. But if you've got no prior experience in finance, then you'd be looking at the Masters in Financial Analysis or the Masters in Management programs that we offer here, and these are both for recent graduates. So question here, what GMAT score do you look for? In terms of GMAT, we have an average on the program about 680. And generally, when we are setting a target for applicants who've not yet done the GMAT that they've perhaps been offered, it would normally be for a total score of around 680. Obviously, this will depend on the weightage in terms of quant or verbal. We'd like to have good scores in both of those areas, not just the quant area. So generally 680, but the range can go, the range can go from kind of low 600s all the way up to the high 700s. So that 680 is what most people on the program would have. So question here, if I'm already enrolled in an MBA program, can I get a waiver on some courses to continue the Master in Finance? No, I mean, the answer generally is no. If you're enrolled in an MBA program at another school, you wouldn't be able to transfer those credits or that knowledge over in order to get a waiver. You'd have to still do the same core courses. You might be able to get a waiver in some of the kind of preparatory classes that take place before the program actually starts. But that would only be if you kind of had experience in that area already. So the answer to that question, I'm afraid, is no. So going back to, there's another question here about the GMAT score, and I believe I may have answered it, but bears repeating. Do you tend to focus on the overall GMAT score, or do you rather take a more favourable view on the quantitative side of it? The quantitative side is particularly important, I should say, but we do look for strong verbal scores as well. The program is very quant heavy, so we need to know that our students are going to be able to handle that kind of level. But there's maybe a slight focus on the quant side, but it doesn't mean that the verbal side can be neglected. In fact, it's very important. Okay, next question. Okay, so question about the TOEFL here. If you're studying if you've studied in an English-speaking country, or that perhaps you've worked in an English-speaking country for more than 2 years, then you don't need to submit a English language tests like the TOEFL or the IELTS. The average score on these two would be something like a 7.5 or 110. So if you're getting around those kind of scores, then you're well within the average. But there is a range, and we do have a number of ways of assessing English language ability. Part of the assessment will be done through your interview, and obviously the GMAT gives us some guidance on this issue. So really, the English language tests themselves are kind of a bigger bigger section of assessing your English language ability overall. But you will get it waived if you have experience studying or working in an English-speaking country, or studying a degree outside of an English-speaking country but in English. So question here, are there students who do not live in the UK but commute regularly to London to attend classes? The answer to that question is yes. On the part-time programme, we have had students come from as far away as Russia. Obviously, this isn't an ideal situation coming from so far away. Commuting, studying, working, unless you have some excellent support from your employer, can be particularly tough. And it will obviously limit the amount of time you can spend on campus, and the amount of time you can spend taking the other opportunities outside of the classroom that London Business School has to offer, like club events or the career centre and areas like that. But commuting students would not be restricted by the school in doing any of this. It would only be from their own schedules. So we do have many students commuting from Europe, but that's about as far away as it gets, really. So, there's a couple of questions here on your profile and can I apply with this kind of profile. One thing I would say, rather than kind of answer these questions generally, I think it'd be useful to talk more about kind of more general questions about the admissions process and the program. So what I would say, if you do have a question about can I apply with this kind of degree, or I've got this many years experience, am I eligible, then I would say please send your CV to us at mif@london.edu, and we'll tell you on an individual basis. So can you talk a little bit about the International Sport Championship held in Paris? So I believe this is the MBAT you're referring to, which I believe stands for MBA tournament, or I could be wrong. Essentially what this is, it's kind of like I guess an Olympic Games of business schools. So all the top business schools attend. You have Harvard and HEC, INSEAD. All the top business schools attend. They send their teams to compete in it, and they compete over pretty much every sport available. And the cumulative achievements of those business schools end up in a kind of overall award being given out to one business school in particular. So the sports, currently the overall trophy, it belongs to London Business School, and will hopefully belong to us next year as well. But it's up to the next generation of business school students to maintain the title. I should say that there's other opportunities for competing in sports. There's a very good, if you're interested in football, there's an excellent tournament that takes place in between a tournament between all the different programs. So the Master in Finance versus the MBA versus the Master in Management, the MFA, EMBA, Sloans, all get together, I think twice a year for a kind of inter-stream football tournament. And there's tons of events like this that are being organised all the time by the clubs. So a question here, can the CFA replace the GMAT? Going back to what I was saying about the GMAT waiver, if you have, say, a CFA level 3, then it can add some weight to having a GMAT, but it's not a direct replacement for the GMAT. They're two very different things. the CFA does tell us something about the quality of the candidate, because it is a particularly tough exam to pass. However, I should say that the CFA, will only, be one element of a case towards awarding a GMAT waiver. But it certainly looks very good to have a CFA, particularly levels 2 and 3. Okay. So, when you're on the Master in Finance, do you have access to a specific career website? The answer to that is yes. There's a careers portal. You'll have access to kind of career discussions and advice, as well as access to job boards. A lot of the career materials, though, are kind of workshops and one-to-one coaching. So there'll be a lot of useful stuff on the career section. And that's a way that you can keep up to date with the activities of careers, the timing of the career fairs, or which employers come into campus and when. So it's certainly a very useful part of the website. A question here: what qualifies as an English-speaking country? So any nation where English is the spoken first language. So we're talking UK, United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, these kind of areas. If you're not sure, there is actually a list on our website which will tell you whether or not it makes you eligible for a waiver of the English language requirement. So if you do think you are eligible, first of all, have a look at the Master in Finance section on the website. Go to apply and look at the English language requirements section. It should tell you every country where this is the case. So question here, what is the minimum GPA? Or if you're not using the American system, what's the minimum undergraduate score? The honest answer here is there is no minimum per se. I mean, ideally we would be looking at kind of 2-1 level in British university terms, or looking at kind of a 3.5 GPA from the United States system. So kind of very good, sort of very good grade after kind of average good, not quite first class or 4.0 GPA. I mean, if you have that, then it certainly adds a significant weight to your application, but it's not necessarily a minimum requirement. So yes, if you have a low GPA, then it can be compensated somewhat by having an excellent GMAT score, or the CFA qualification as well. So what is the time commitment for part-time students? Part-time students will be required to be in class Friday evenings and Saturday daytimes during their first year. They also have the option of doing 2 block week electives in their first year as well, if their schedule permits it. So it really depends on how much time you're able to get. Doing a block week elective, you would need to take a week off work essentially in order to complete that, because that would be from 9 to 5. However, any of the electives, as I said previously, will be available in part-time friendly formats. So during the evenings or at weekends. So you won't miss out on anything because you'll be part-time in terms of the curriculum. But the time commitment in terms of studying, you're going to be probably 1 day every other weekend with your study group, 7-8 hours working on an assignment with them. Many of the study groups will be communicating throughout the week over Skype and kind of having video conferences and meetings like that. But I would say probably you'd be looking at least a couple of hours a night studying on your own and kind of keeping up to date with the course materials. But there is some flexibility in terms of how you manage your time. And being good at managing your time is absolutely essential. So question here, which exam is better to take, the GMAT or the GRE? So the GMAT exam, for us, we'll accept either of these, but I think we prefer the GMAT ultimately. The GRE is less common. It's slightly more difficult to decipher not the quality of the grades awarded, but we run primarily on a kind of GMAT basis. But we do accept the GRE. Really, it's a matter of personal preference at the end of the day. We wouldn't, if someone has a score of an equivalent in the GMAT to GRE, we wouldn't choose them one over the other. It doesn't work necessarily like that. So, but the GMAT is generally the more kind of widely recognised exam. The MBA program here at London Business School only accepts the GMAT, but all the other programs also accept GRE as well. Okay, so we've probably got time for one more question. So the question here about scholarship options and financing. In terms of the scholarship options we have on the Master in Finance, we have two kinds of scholarships. We have merit scholarships, which are awarded for exceptional applicants at the point of offer usually. And these you don't need to apply for. You're just considered for them automatically whenever you apply. And you're successful in your application, obviously. If you are successful in your application, you're awarded a place on the Master in Finance, then you will have the opportunity to apply to other scholarships that are primarily kind of donor scholarships by alumni, and they'll usually require some kind of additional application. And this could be an essay, it could be a letter to the alum. All these scholarships available are listed on the website. So if you are interested in applying for scholarship, do your research now, have a look at what's required from each scholarship that you'd like to apply for. In terms of funding generally, financing the program, many students will look at Prodigy Finance and other kind of loans of that kind. There are many loans available. Some are backed by the government, not the UK government, but kind of internationally, governments. I know US loans have some kind of system over there. So really investigate your financing options, look at what loans are available, look what kind of help your government might offer. But the school, many of the students use Prodigy Finance, which is essentially a private company, but it's designed for business school students by business school students, and works in a kind of crowdfunding principle where business school students can invest in Prodigy Finance. So many students will use that. Okay. Maybe have a little time for one more question here then. So, question here, does the school help with housing for students? There is housing available for students off campus. We don't have any on-campus housing. All of our halls of residence are shared with the University of London, and they're based in the kind of areas around London Business School's campus. One thing I'd say is that the places for this are limited. So make sure that you get your application in early if you are applying to one of these places, and list your preference early, but also explore other options. There's a huge array of options for private housing. Many students will contact each other before they actually arrive, once they've been admitted, and discuss flat shares and house shares. And this can be the most economical way of actually living in London, is kind of sharing with others. But if you don't want to do that, and you want to live in halls, then there's private halls available, places like Urban Nest or Zebra Housing. So do a bit of research on housing as well. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this presentation Q&A session. I'd just like to thank you all for listening and for asking your questions. If you have any other questions at all, then please feel free to email them to mif@london.edu. Okay, thank you very much for your time.